So Zelensky is just showing himself again to be an actor. I mean, that's what he originally was, and that's what he's continued to do while serving as president.
So recently, Aaron Maté was on Judge Napolitano's podcast talking about the current status of the war in Ukraine, U.S. involvement in it, and why it's still a disaster, even though Trump campaigned on securing peace between the two countries within 24 hours as president. He says some interesting things here and gets into what Zelensky's role is in all this. So let's watch and let's react.
You're in Turkey. Also in Turkey is Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov and United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Guess who else is in Turkey with Marco Rubio? Chris, can you put this picture up? Hang on to your most recent meal. Senator Lindsey Graham. What on earth is he doing there? This is neocon central all over again. There's Secretary Rubio, Senator Graham, and the Ukrainian foreign minister. You can see Senator Graham beaming from ear to ear. I wonder what he said that has him so happy. What the hell is Lindsey Graham doing there?
Lindsey Graham is the senator who infamously visited Ukraine right before Trump was inaugurated in early 2016. And he said, along with John McCain, their message was, your fight is our fight, and Russia is going to pay a very, very heavy price. And what they were saying was, Ukraine's our proxy war, and we're going to keep using you to fight Russia. And that's the project he's on board with throughout, including since Russia invaded, largely because of the policies that Lindsey Graham helped promote. So I suspect, if I'm just guessing, he's in Istanbul, these peace talks, and this is news to me, so I'm just reacting now. He's there because he wants to make sure that his project of using Ukraine as a NATO proxy against Russia is not impeded, that the U.S. is not going to go too far in his mind to meet Russian demands. So I think he's keeping a very watchful eye over his fellow neocon, Marco Rubio.
Yeah, absolutely. And Aaron isn't lying here. There's actually video of both McCain and Lindsey Graham giving a pitch to Ukrainian troops there that, hey, your war is our war. Essentially, we're going to be there to support you and bankroll you. Basically, after the U.S. helped overthrow the Yanukovych government in the Maidan coup, they call it the Revolution of Dignity, but we know from records that U.S. aid funded the overthrow of that president, democratically elected president. So for all the talk of defending democracy, the U.S. certainly wasn't involved in Ukraine to defend democracy. It was there to use Ukraine as a chess board piece, as a pawn in their scheme to antagonize Russia. It was just the latest phase of it. Several waves of NATO expansion preceded that. And yeah, Lindsey Graham is one of the worst swamp creatures imaginable, responsible for pushing this war and continuing to want to aid Ukraine. I was actually very surprised when Zelensky left the White House a few months ago, and Lindsey Graham was right out there with reporters actually saying, I don't know if Zelensky's a guy we can do business with now, but he seems to have changed his tune. He's very supportive of the cause in Ukraine, much to my chagrin and the chagrin of all anti-war dissidents.
Here he is in December 2016, Senator Lindsey Graham and the late Senator John McCain. Cut number 3.
Your fight is our fight.
Ваша боротьба – це наша боротьба.
2017 will be the year of offense.
Рік 2017 рік буде ріком нападу.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of a Russian aggression.
Досить вже російської агресії.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
Час вже, щоб вони заплатили важчу ціну.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю.
Yeah, has John McCain been right about any foreign policy question in his entire life? I think not. Not only on this, but on Iraq and all sorts of other conflicts. He never knew a war he didn't want to get into. Same with Lindsey Graham. This is crazy, and keep in mind, this is after Ukraine decided to violate terms of the Minsk agreements, which took part in 2 agreements, one I believe at the end of 2014 and one I believe at the beginning of 2015, which would have prohibited them from using the Donbass in the way they did. They were essentially supposed to codify, not only in law but in constitution, that the regions of the Donbass that were Russian-centric, Russian-focused, culturally Russian, would have a special degree of autonomy, not unlike what, Macau or Hong Kong enjoys in China or Catalonia enjoys in Spain. That was supposed to be the mandate. They violated it. So both parties did violate the Minsk agreements to some extent, but Russia says, hey, we're going to, respond to what Ukraine's doing because they're not even laying the foundations that they agreed to for these regions to be autonomous. That's what happened there.
Wow. So he really hasn't changed at all. Here he is in in May of 2023 with that infamous best money we ever spent. This is gut-wrenching, but we'll watch it. Cut number 4.
Big support, very
The
important.
best money we've ever spent.
Thank you so much.
No, it's, we're on this is 457th day of a war that was supposed to last 3 days.
Yeah.
They were never saying it would last 3 days unless it was on the Ukrainian side, and this is just absurd. Keep in mind, he said this during an inflation crisis when the U.S. was in debt to the tune of about $35 trillion. This guy is a total monster. It's just unapologetically so, I say that. He is a monster.
You amaze me. Your country amazes me.
It's about our people and about your people. Your people help our people. All our appreciations.
You remind me of our better selves in America. That there was a time in America that we were this way.
So I think he's saying this after Zelensky banned all political opposition, shut down oppositional media outlets, shut down various Eastern Orthodox churches from organizing, saying they were too pro-Russian, instituted martial law, and expanded conscription in Ukraine. I think that's after all those things that Lindsey Graham is saying this. It's absolutely insane.
Fighting to the last person. We're going to be free or die.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free,
Yes.
and we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
He recognized the voice of the person to whom he was speaking, Ukrainian President Zelensky, who was the president of Ukraine at the time, but isn't any longer. What could possibly come from Rubio and Lavrov? What could possibly come from this?
Just one comment on Lindsey Graham in that first clip you played, where he says 2017 will be the year of offense. Is he a Ukrainian commander? He's representing the people of South Carolina. Those are his constituents, but he's speaking as if he's a commander of the Ukrainian forces. Who is he to tell the Ukrainians 2017 will be the year of offense? Well, he's someone who's heavily involved in a proxy war that has gotten a whole lot worse because of the policies he promoted. So he promised 2017 being the year of offense. Well, 2022 became the year of Russia's offense. And because of people like Lindsey Graham, a lot of Ukrainians and Russians have died. I mean, it's not solely the fault of the U.S. in Ukraine. I mean, it was Russia's choice to invade, but that just speaks to the mentality inside inside Washington, where they have the right to tell a foreign country that next year will be the year of offense. You're going to fight on our behalf.
Yeah, this is crazy. Aaron is totally right. The empire builders look at the rest of the world as, again, just pawns in their grand scheme to empire build, to expand the U.S. empire, hegemony, to create new military bases, to, support regime change operations or fund one side over the other.
Your fight is our fight. What could come out of Rubio and Lavrov? Well, look, it depends on Zelensky. Zelensky pulled this stunt where he said that, I'm going to go to Istanbul and I challenge Putin to show up. And then he said that if Putin doesn't show up, then that shows the Russians aren't serious about peace talks, as if only Vladimir Putin can negotiate peace with Ukraine. And we know that that's not true because actually Putin's aides negotiated a very extensive peace treaty with Ukraine 3 years ago,
Right.
this month in Istanbul, which Zelensky walked away from. And Zelensky since then has signed a decree ruling out peace talks with Putin. So on the one hand, he says, I can only reach peace talks with Putin, while also putting his name on a decree that says, I cannot discuss peace talks with Putin. So it's completely nonsensical. It was a stunt. He knew Putin wouldn't show up, and he doesn't want actually the talks to continue with lower level Russian officials, including the foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, who has a fair amount of authority and certainly expertise in these matters. So Zelensky is just showing himself again to be an actor. I mean, that's what he originally was, and that's what he's continued to do while serving as president.
Yeah, Aaron is exactly right here. A lot of people look at Zelensky as the chief impediment to peace between Russia and Ukraine, but I really don't think he is. I think he might be an impediment to peace between Ukraine and Russia, but the U.S. can actually just withdraw from Ukraine, and that would force Zelensky's hand. He'd have to sign a peace. Europe is not going to commit the actual forces that they're pledging, that Keir Starmer and Macron and van der Leyen always talk about. We're pledging all this military equipment, pledging all these funds. They have devoted some funds, but without the U.S. bankrolling this would be a completely fruitless endeavor. They're not going to step in and bail him out. Look, all Trump has to do is walk away. The bigger impediment to U.S. involvement in Ukraine is the military-industrial complex, which wants it to keep going, the warmongers, which want it to keep going, the neocons, some of which are in Trump's cabinet, which want it to keep going. But like Kellogg and Rubio and Lindsey Graham, who's all of a sudden being resurrected by Trump, who talked smack about neocons in his trip to Saudi Arabia and said that it's not where you're at today because of the nation builders, that the people that tell you what to do and intervene in your economy and your military. That was one of Trump's best speeches, but he's certainly not applying the rhetoric that he used in that speech by sending people like Lindsey Graham there and having Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State, but we've talked about that to death. So look, Trump just needs to withdraw all aid to Ukraine. The rest will follow. A peace would have to transpire at that point. Putin is not going to invade Ukraine proper. No signs have ever been shown that that is what his goal is. If he wanted to do that, he would have to expand conscription greatly, and they would have had to devote a lot more forces to this invasion anyways. It doesn't seem like they want to do that. It seems like Russia wants, as it's always wanted, a strict prohibition on Ukraine joining NATO, which was their reddest of red lines. That's what William Burns told Condoleezza Rice in that memo that Julian Assange released. And he wants prohibitions on NATO expansion, withdrawal of NATO resources, intelligence, and missile systems like the Aegis system that can shoot Tomahawk missiles outfitted with an H-bomb on the top of them into Russia. That's what he wants. That's the impediment to peace. Trump seems unwilling to deal with that. Instead, lately, he's been talking like CNN's talking, like Putin wants all of Ukraine. He literally said that. And you can say it's 4D chess. He's just trying to use that as leverage against Putin to make him think that, you know, the U.S. is serious. But he campaigned on the opposite, on non-intervention in Ukraine. So just withdraw all the support, all the resources, and the rest will follow. But what do you think? Let me know down below. What do you think the biggest impediment is to peace in Ukraine as far as a deal between powers? Is it the U.S.? Is it Zelensky? Is it Russia? Is it various power centers within each country, the military-industrial complex? I want to hear from you on that. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one.